Hello, Amy Wilkinson here, the coach working with women in the food industry to help them get recognition in their careers and their lives, and getting the recognition that they deserve, doing that without completely frazzling themselves to death, because for a long time I thought that was the only way to be successful at work, was to basically burn yourself out, be really busy all the time. Turns out that's not true. So I am coming to you today to talk to you, and I've got a dog in the background, so apologies for that. It's just real life, isn't it? I'm going to talk to you about being perfect and why, for a long time, I thought that was the key to success. You know, do everything perfectly. Why wouldn't it be? But why it might actually be holding you back in your career. I'm going to talk to you about that. I am going to talk to you. I'm going to give you a few tips on what you can do about it. And then I am going to share with you the course that I am about to launch, which is called Invisible to Valued. I'm not going to harp on about that for ages. I'm going to give you lots of free value because I am all about getting as many women in the food industry to get that recognition so that together we can be the change we want to see in the industry. So let me talk to you about perfectionism. Honestly, for a long time, I just thought, if you do everything perfectly, you get on in your life, you get on in your career. Basically, it turned out that really held me back. It definitely helped me early on in my career. Management knowing that they could trust me to do a fabulous job every time, and it meant I was given more and more responsibility. You get really good at what you do, so you get rewarded with more work. But it also meant working longer hours and juggling more and more. And that became overwhelming because the reality is perfectionism can be a massive time zapper. You know, when you're doing, and I still have to keep myself in check. I always say whenever I do these videos, it's because I need to hear this stuff myself as well. You know, you spend all that time making sure the font's right, everything's, aligned, or, you're making sure that all the labels are completely straight on your samples. They're all really important skills. Like, I'm not saying deliberately go and make mistakes, but I have lost count the amount of late nights I spent relabeling samples that weren't quite right, or just adjusting one more thing on a presentation. And what happens is when you're trying to juggle everything, like, it's all right when you've only got so much, but reality is we get more and more work, don't we? And as you're juggling more and more different projects, and that you're juggling more and more stuff outside of work, you start to get more and more stressed and overwhelmed. And that can lead to you stopping speaking up as much as you used to at work, because you're too busy getting on with the detail or getting on with making it all perfect that you just want to get your heads down and you want to get up with stuff and you get on with stuff. And if you speak up, you're going to get more stuff coming your way. So you just sort of think, oh God, I'm just gonna, like, I used to just sit with my headphones in and be like, don't talk to me because I don't want any more work. And then you might start to make mistakes because there's so many things going on, and that because you're trying to be superhuman, and really that isn't sustainable. The other thing with perfectionism is that it creates this inability to delegate, because nobody can do it as perfectly as you. But the reality of perfectionism is there is no such thing as perfect, because everybody's going to interpret your work in a different way. So yes, somebody that you delegate it to might not do it the way you would do it, but that doesn't mean that it's not right, because your idea of perfect is different to theirs. But the point is that starts to perpetuate this overwhelm, because you end up trying to do everything yourself because nobody can do it as well as you. And that can lead to, and the other thing about being a perfectionist as well is that you can often feel like it is a weakness to ask for help, because you don't want to drop that perfect mask, and therefore you end up just getting more and more overwhelmed and burnt out. And you could go and listen to my burnout story on the Oh For Food's Sake podcast if you don't already know about it. But this was a big part in me getting to a point of burnout in my career. but I recovered and I've learned all of this stuff. So that's why I want to share it with you. I'm not being perfect now because I can't even sit on my chair properly. I'm going to sit up. If you are on live, come and say hello so that I know you're here. And if you are watching this later, give me a hashtag replay so that I know you've been here, because it's really weird just talking to a little green dot. Right, so I was talking about perfectionism, and I was talking about that mask that I had. So I think we are brought up to wear a bit of a mask. You know, we don't have that mask when we're babies, but we learn from everything as we grow up. You know, as our parents or our caregivers or teachers that wanted us to do well, they're always saying, try harder, be the best that you can be. As long as you try your hardest and your best, put on a brave face. And that means that we, you know, that's all we've heard is you must always try harder, you must practice makes perfect, all of those things. And that well-intentioned encouragement that, you know I still give my daughter now. I hate knowing so much about psychology because I just think I'm going to mess her up completely. But what that does, it does mean that you may have excelled at school academically, or you might have nailed that extracurricular thing that you did outside of school, you know, whether it's a sport or something like that. And you will have learned through that working hard and doing a really good job is super important. And it is until it's not anymore. And the reason is wearing that mask all the time of being perfect is flipping knackering. It's really tiring, but we get too scared to drop it because we believe that trying your hardest and being the best is what matters and what makes us worthy and likable. And because we're human, we want to be liked. We're pack animals. Everybody wants to be liked by other people. The reality of perfectionism is that it is actually that fear of dropping that mask is deep rooted in that feeling of shame. And what I mean by shame sounds like a really harsh word, but you know that feeling when you were kids, because like in the school playground when other kids pointed at you because you said something wrong, that shame, that feeling of not being good enough or people are laughing at you. So we learn that really young, and then we try to make it never happen again. And you know, my experience of this is I suffered with a chronic illness, and for a long time I hid it at work because, and I wore this mask of I'm fine all the time and that sort of thing. And when I took that mask off and I admitted to other people that I wasn't perfect, that's when the magic started to happen in my career, because people saw me as a human and they started to relate to me. And I hate the word authentic, but they knew I was being authentic, and it helped other people open up. And it turns out that when you take that mask off a bit and you let people know that you're not perfect, because actually, if you think about it, do you really like those people that are like a little less perfect? Then it makes you more approachable, and it actually makes people like you more. That's the irony of it. I still find it hard today. I still spend too much time making sure the colours and the fonts are right in my presentations, and record videos and then re-record them because I think, oh God, look, I shouldn't have said that. But I have let go of perfect a little bit. And what that has given me is more time to spend with my family, do things that I want to do and have fun. It's given me more perspective, because it turns out all of those things like the fonts and they don't really matter. Nobody else really noticed. It's given me more contentment and self-compassion, and kind of knowing that it's okay to be a little bit imperfect, and actually it makes people like you more, so that's fine. And it's also given me the ability to learn from my mistakes, because when I was a perfectionist, I rarely made mistakes, but when I did, it felt like the end of the world. Whereas now I see little failures as learning opportunities. Does any of this resonate with you? Yeah. So, how do you let go of it? So, I still call myself a recovering perfectionist because I think, like any other habit, it's really hard to get rid of it completely. But it's something that I'm aware of and I manage a lot more now. I'm just going to have a drink because my voice is going. So, some ways you can start letting go of perfect. Start on the little things. So, just stop with the tweaking of the presentations. Does it matter if the wrong brand colours go on something? Now, I'm not saying put the wrong retailer logo on presentations. I've done that in the past. That's not good. It's a bit career limiting. But go for some little things like be okay with the font being wrong or some text being misaligned, and realise that it doesn't actually matter, and spend some time self-reflecting afterwards and thinking, well, do you know what? Actually, nobody knows that. And does it really matter? Because it's important to get perspective. So that's my second thing, is get perspective, but you might want to get that perspective from somebody else. So I used to have a really great line manager who gets mentioned on the podcast all the time. You know who you are. She recognised that I had that perfectionism in me, and she used to always say to me, Amy, good enough is good enough. And she used to say to me, your 70% is everybody else's 100%. So just do a 70% job. So find that person that's going to be the person that's going to hold you accountable, whether it's your line manager or somebody else that's going to hold you accountable to let go of perfect, and talk to them and get them to help you be accountable for yourself. So there's things that you can do. Sorry, my voice is really going. You can change your mindset. And by mindset, I think it's a bit of a coachy word, isn't it? But everything has to be perfect, or practice makes perfect. You know, those little mantras that we've got in our heads, change them to things like good enough is good enough. And I often use done is better than perfect. Or if you sort of self-depreciate a little bit and you don't nail something perfectly, just say, I am enough just as I am. And actually repeating these things in your head, it does help to create that belief over time. And the other thing that is great for if you're a perfectionist is to try something new, because as perfectionists, we often don't start new things or try new things, because if we can't do it perfectly, we don't want to do it at all. Like, that's me when it comes to sport. But it might be, you know, go and learn a new craft, or go and join a new club, or do something outside of work that is completely different, like some sort of hobby or whatever, and learn something new, because you will learn from that. You'll learn that actually getting things wrong and practice gets you better, and that you don't have to be perfect from the off. And what I want to say to you is this perfectionism thing, it got you to where you got you to a point in your career, but it will get you to a point where it stagnates your career. And, you know, we've all heard the statistics about women will only apply for a job if they know that they can do 100% of it, whereas men will do it if they're 60% sure. And that doesn't mean that if you're a man watching this, perfectionism might not be holding you back. But what it does mean is that it's a learned behaviour, and actually you might be getting to a point in your career where that perfectionism is holding you back. And I don't want that to be the case for you anymore. So go try something new. Get some mantras. Done is better than perfect. Good enough is good enough. Get somebody else to hold you accountable and give you some perspective when you find yourself being ridiculous. And start small. Start small with letting a few little mistakes go past. Honestly, it's life-changing. It gives you all this time and headspace back. So perfectionism is something that we talk about in Invisible to Valued. So the course is a 5-week course that I have got launching. It's 5 weeks, but you get access to me for 10 weeks because it's hard to juggle everything in when you work in the food industry, isn't it? So it's a group program. You're going to have videos and tasks to do each week. It's going to help you to feel like you can let go of that perfectionism a little bit, be more confident in yourself. Don't feel like you have to massively over-prepare every time you go into a senior meeting, thinking that you need to know everything, because you're going to have more confidence in yourself. And that's going to give you more time back. It's going to give you more opportunities in your career, because you're not going to be getting your head down, getting everything perfect, getting into all the detail. You're going to have your head up, you're going to be visible, and you are going to be able to push back on things. So it doesn't matter that, people are asking you to do things, because you start to choose the things that you want to do, the nice things. So that's a big part of it, and it's going to help you to feel good enough to not have to feel like you always have to strive for this perfection, that you are good enough as you are, because I know you are. So if that sounds like something that you need, I will put, there's going to be links all over the internet, but I'll put a link up and go and have a look at the page. If you've got any questions, ask me in the comments here, send me a DM. I would absolutely love for you to join me and the women and men. I've got one guy potentially coming at the moment, but men are welcome. It's just, I tend to work with women because I'm a woman and I attract women, and because I'm totally passionate about helping women in the food industry get the recognition that they deserve, because then together we can be the change that we want to see. Only 22% of women, only 22% of exec team members in the food industry are women, and I want that to change. So let's do that together. So if you've got any questions, let me know, and I will see you soon.